Hey everyone, so you want to know more about dedicated software development teams?
Yeah, seems like a hot topic these days.
Definitely. You sent over some really cool stuff about the benefits and
Yeah.
we dove right in.
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating stuff, like how these teams are really kind of changing the game when it comes to building software.
Yeah. It's clear from what you sent over that these teams are more than just a trend. They're a whole strategic approach to tackling, specific challenges in software development, especially in today's fast-paced world.
Right. It's not just like another buzzword.
Definitely not.
So let's start with the why. Like, when does it even make sense to go with a dedicated team?
Sure.
The source material really emphasized situations where they're a perfect fit, like, long-term projects or when you're dealing with really complex tech or when you need to scale up your development, but you don't want to go on a massive hiring spree. You know what I mean?
Right.
It seems like it all boils down to needing specialized skills and like a laser focus on the project.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's all about strategic resource allocation. You're not just throwing more people at a problem. You're matching highly specialized skills to the specific needs of the project.
So instead of like a jack of all trades, you're bringing in a specialist for the job.
Exactly. It's like if you're building a house, you wouldn't hire a plumber to do the electrical wiring, would you?
Definitely not.
You'd want an electrician, someone who's a master of that specific craft. Dedicated teams bring that same level of focused expertise to software development.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So you're bringing in the experts, but how does that actually lead to being more efficient?
Well,
The source material goes into four main areas: expertise workflows, time to market, and collaboration.
right, each of those contributes to the efficiency boost you get with a dedicated team. Like take expertise, for example. You're getting a team that's already fluent in the specific technologies your project needs. Whether it's blockchain for a fintech platform or cloud-based architecture for a scalable web app, they can hit the ground running, minimizing that initial learning curve and reducing the risk of making costly errors.
That's huge, especially when time is money, right?
Absolutely.
It's like having a seasoned chef in the kitchen.
Mhm.
You just know the food is going to be amazing and prepared with incredible speed and precision.
Exactly.
But it's not just about individual expertise, is it? The source material also talked about how important streamlined workflows are.
Oh, for sure. Tools like Jira and Slack are more than just buzzwords. They're how dedicated teams actually operate. Like with Jira, the team can break the project down into manageable chunks called sprints, and that ensures everyone knows exactly what needs to be accomplished each week. Then Slack streamlines all the communications so you can ditch those endless email chains and keep everyone in the loop.
So it's like having this well-oiled machine where everyone knows their role tasks are clearly defined and you can actually see the progress happening.
You got it. No more wasted time trying to figure out what's going on or who's doing what.
Right. And speaking of saving time, that brings us to time to market, which I think is one of the biggest advantages of these teams.
Yeah, dedicated teams are laser focused on your project. Combine that with agile methodologies and what are called CI/CD pipelines, and you've got a recipe for super fast development and quicker product launches.
Which is essential in today's world, right?
Totally. In a world where speed often equals a competitive advantage, it can be a game changer.
The source material really highlighted that the impact of faster launches, especially for startups trying to disrupt the market.
Yeah.
But it's not all about speed, right?
No, definitely not.
The source also emphasized the importance of collaboration and making sure you end up with a high-quality product.
Right.
So what are some of the best practices that dedicated teams use to make that happen,
Yeah.
to make sure that collaboration is really seamless?
It goes beyond just using the right tools. You need to establish a culture of open communication right from the start.
From day one.
Yeah. Dedicated teams will often have things like daily stand-up meetings where everyone shares their progress, any challenges they're facing, and what they plan to do that day. It keeps everyone on the same page and allows for any potential problems to be flagged early on.
And beyond the daily check-ins.
You've got detailed reporting mechanisms that give everyone transparency into the overall progress of the project,
Right.
making sure everyone's aligned on the bigger picture.
So it's not just about avoiding those communication breakdowns that can totally derail a project. It's about creating this environment where everyone feels empowered to contribute and to collaborate.
Exactly. And that's what truly sets dedicated teams apart. It's not just about individual brilliance. It's about the collective intelligence and synergy that emerges when you bring together a group of really skilled people who are passionate about solving problems and building amazing software.
Now, before we move on, there's something I'm curious about. We've talked a lot about how these teams achieve efficiency through, their expertise and streamlined workflows.
Right.
But the source also mentions these additional advantages that go beyond just efficiency. Things like scalability, cost-effectiveness, long-term focus, and even access to a global talent pool. Can you talk a little bit more about those? Like, what makes them so important in today's business landscape?
Sure. Those additional advantages are really key to understanding the full value of these dedicated teams. It's not just about getting things done quickly. It's about doing them right strategically and with a long-term vision in mind.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's break down those advantages a bit, starting with scalability. The source talked about how you can easily scale resources up or down as needed, which seems really valuable in today's market where things can change so quickly.
Absolutely. Imagine your project suddenly needs additional expertise in, say, data analytics or machine learning. With a dedicated team model, you can quickly bring in specialists in those areas without having to go through the lengthy process of recruiting and hiring full-time employees.
So you're not stuck with a fixed team if your needs change.
Exactly. And on the flip side, if the scope of your project shifts and you need to reduce resources, you can do that seamlessly too. You're only paying for the expertise you need when you need it.
So it's all about flexibility and agility.
Precisely.
That brings us to cost effectiveness. The source actually suggested that dedicated teams can be more cost-effective than in-house development, which seems a bit counterintuitive at first.
Right. It might seem that way, but it's all about understanding those hidden costs of in-house development. Think about all the expenses involved: recruiting, onboarding, salaries, benefits, office space. It all adds up. With a dedicated team, you're paying for a specific set of skills and deliverables, often at a fixed cost. And that can be way lower than maintaining a full-time in-house team, especially for projects with changing workloads or specialized skill requirements.
Okay, I'm starting to see how the cost savings can really add up over time.
Yeah, it can make a big difference.
The source also mentioned long-term focus as a key advantage. Can you explain how dedicated teams approach those longer-term projects differently?
Sure, dedicated teams aren't just jumping from one project to the next. They're actually invested in your success for the long haul. They take the time to really understand your business goals, your target audience, and your overall vision.
So they're not just coding monkeys, they're actually thinking about the bigger picture.
Right. And that long-term perspective allows them to anticipate challenges, proactively suggest solutions, and contribute to the overall product strategy rather than just executing tasks in isolation.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's
like having a strategic partner who's just as committed to the success of the project as you are, rather than just a group of hired guns.
Exactly.
And speaking of talent, the source also highlighted access to a global talent pool as a major advantage. How does working with a team that's spread out geographically benefit a project?
Well, it opens up a world of possibilities. You're no longer limited by the talent pool in your immediate area. You can tap into specialized skills and expertise from all over the globe, ensuring that you're getting the best minds working on your project regardless of location.
So you can get the best of the best no matter where they are.
Exactly. Of course, working with a global team has its own set of challenges like communication across time zones and cultural differences, but the benefits often outweigh those hurdles, especially when you've got the right processes and tools in place.
The source material actually had two really interesting real-world examples that showed these advantages in action. It talked about a fintech startup that needed to develop a secure payment platform and an e-commerce platform that was looking to completely revamp their mobile app. Can you tell us more about those cases and how dedicated teams help them achieve their goals?
Of course. The fintech startup needed expertise in blockchain technology to build this secure and scalable payment platform.
Okay.
Now, instead of trying to recruit and train an in-house team, they partnered with a dedicated team that specialized in blockchain development.
So they brought in the experts.
Exactly. And that allowed them to tap into those highly specialized skills, launch their platform way faster than they could have in-house, and ultimately gain a competitive edge in a rapidly evolving market.
That early launch is so important for a startup trying to make a splash.
It can make all the difference.
And what about the e-commerce platform? What were they trying to achieve with their mobile app revamp?
They were having a lot of problems with their existing app's performance and user experience. It was slow and clunky, and it was missing some key features that their customers were demanding.
Ouch. Yeah, that's not good.
Not good at all. So they decided to bring in a dedicated team that specialized in mobile app development and UX design. This new team was able to quickly assess the existing app, identify areas for improvement, and implement solutions using agile methodologies, and the result: a much faster, more user-friendly, and feature-rich app that their customers loved and that boosted their sales.
So both of these case studies really show how dedicated teams can give you access to those specialized skills accelerate development timelines, and ultimately deliver real business results.
Absolutely.
But let's be real, not every project is a perfect fit for a dedicated team, right?
That's a good point. Dedicated teams are super versatile, but they're not a one-size-fits-all solution.
So when might this model not be the best approach?
Well, for example, if you have a small short-term project that doesn't require a lot of specialized expertise, it might be more efficient to handle it in-house. Or if you've got a highly sensitive project that involves confidential information, you might be hesitant to entrust it to an external team.
That makes sense. So it's about carefully weighing your options and considering your specific needs, your budget, your internal resources, and your risk tolerance before jumping in.
Definitely. It's all about making informed decisions.
But let's say you've decided that a dedicated team is the way to go for your project. How do you actually go about finding the right team for your specific needs?
Choosing the right dedicated team is absolutely crucial for your project success. It's like assembling a dream team. You want to make sure you've got the right players with the right skills and the right chemistry to achieve your goals.
So you need to be very strategic about it.
Absolutely. And it all starts with clearly defining your needs. It's not just about finding a team that's good at software development in general. It's about finding a team that's a perfect match for your specific project.
So you need to do your homework up front.
Exactly. You have to consider the specific technologies involved, the complexity of the project, your budget, your timeline, and even your company culture.
So it's a lot more than just checking off a list of technical skills.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The source material really emphasized that you need to look beyond just technical skills when choosing a team.
So what other factors should you consider during that selection process?
Technical skills are essential, of course, but they're not the whole story. You also need to think about the team's experience, their track record, their communication style, their project management methods, and even their cultural fit with your own organization.
So it's about finding a team that's not just competent, but also easy to work with. A team that shares your values and understands your vision.
Exactly. You want a team that feels like an extension of your own company, a team that's genuinely invested in your success. And that often boils down to communication and cultural alignment.
It's like finding the right business partner, not just a vendor.
That's a great way to put it. It's about building a relationship that's based on trust, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to achieving a common goal.
Okay, so we've talked about identifying your needs and considering factors beyond just those technical skills. But let's get practical here. What are some specific questions you should ask potential teams during that vetting process? What are the red flags that should make you think twice?
Well, you want to dig into their experience. Ask about projects they've worked on that are similar to yours. What were the challenges they faced? How did they overcome them? What were the outcomes?
So you're really looking for those concrete examples of their capabilities.
Yeah, you want to see proof that they can deliver.
And what about their process? How do they manage projects?
Ask about their project management methodologies. Do they use Agile, Scrum, Kanban, Waterfall? Make sure their approach aligns with your own preferences and your company's way of working.
So you're not just throwing them into the deep end without knowing how they swim.
Exactly. You want to make sure you're on the same page from the start.
What about communication? How do they keep you in the loop throughout the project?
Ask about their communication protocols. How often will they provide updates? What channels do they use? Will there be regular meetings or calls? You want to make sure they're proactive and transparent in their communication.
So no surprises down the line.
Exactly. Clear communication is key to a successful partnership.
Okay, so you've asked all the right questions, and you've got a good feel for the team's experience and their approach. But what are some of those red flags that should make you hesitate? Those warning signs that maybe this isn't the right fit after all.
One big red flag is a lack of transparency.
Yeah.
If they're hesitant to share details about their process, their past projects, or their team members, that's a sign that something might be off.
It's all about trust.
Exactly. Trust is essential in any partnership, especially when you're entrusting them with a crucial part of your business.
What else?
Another red flag is a lack of flexibility. If they're rigid in their approach and unwilling to adapt to your specific needs, that could be a problem.
So you need a team that's willing to work with you.
Exactly. You're looking for a partner and not a dictator.
And what about cultural fit? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, cultural fit is super important. You want a team that shares your values, your communication style, and your work ethic. If you get a sense that their culture clashes with your own, that could lead to problems down the road.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Exactly. It's just not going to work.
So let's say you've found a team that ticks all the boxes. They've got the experience, the expertise, the right approach, and the cultural fit. But how do you actually make sure the collaboration goes smoothly? The source material had a whole section on onboarding and building a strong working relationship, which seems super important for long-term success.
Oh, it's crucial. It's like laying the foundation for a house. You can have the best blueprints and the most skilled builders, but if the foundation is weak, the whole structure is compromised.
So you can't just assume that everything will fall into place on its own.
Definitely not. Onboarding is all about setting clear expectations, establishing those effective communication channels, and creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable collaborating and contributing their ideas.
The source also emphasized that onboarding isn't just a one-time event. It's an ongoing process.
Right? It's not just a check-the-box exercise. It's about continually refining the process, addressing any roadblocks, and ensuring everyone is on the same page as the project evolves. Think of it as a constant dialogue, a feedback loop that keeps the team aligned, engaged, and working towards a shared goal.
So let's dive into the specifics. What are the essential steps for a smooth onboarding process? What should you focus on to make sure everyone hits the ground running?
Well, first impressions are everything, right?
Totally.
Start with introductions, and not just the formal kind. Encourage both sides to get to know each other, not just professionally, but personally. Building rapport and trust from the get-go creates a foundation for open communication and collaboration.
It's like meeting a new friend.
Yeah.
You want to find common ground, share a laugh, establish a connection that goes beyond just the task at hand.
Exactly. Once you've built that initial rapport, then you can dive into the project specifics, clearly define the goals, the scope of work, the timeline, the key performance indicators. Make sure everyone understands the big picture and how their role contributes to the overall success.
And speaking of roles, the source material mentioned how important it is to discuss roles and responsibilities up front. Who's the point person for each area? How will decisions be made? What happens if there are disagreements?
Transparency is so important in this phase. Having a clear chain of command and a well-defined decision-making process minimizes confusion, streamlines communication, and empowers team members to take ownership of their tasks.
So no one's left wondering what they're supposed to be doing or who to go to for answers.
Exactly. It's all about clarity and accountability.
And speaking of communication, the source stressed the importance of setting clear communication protocols right from the start.
Oh, absolutely. Determine the preferred channels, whether it's email, Slack, project management platforms, whatever works best. And set those expectations for response times and meeting frequency. Don't forget about cultural nuances if you're working with a remote team, too. Be mindful of time zones, language barriers, and different communication styles.
It's about respecting everyone's time and making sure everyone feels heard and understood.
Exactly.
Now, once the project's actually underway, regular check-ins are crucial, right?
Absolutely. And not just for monitoring progress, but for identifying and addressing any challenges early on, before they snowball into bigger problems.
The source material suggested implementing a system for feedback and continuous improvement. What does that look like in practice?
It's about creating a culture where feedback is welcomed and encouraged, both from the client side and within the dedicated team itself. Yeah. Having regular retrospectives where the team reflects on what went well, what could be improved, and how to adjust processes for future sprints can be really valuable.
So it's not about placing blame, but about learning from both the successes and the challenges.
Exactly. It's about viewing challenges as opportunities for growth and constantly striving to refine the process, which ultimately benefits everyone involved.
And I imagine even with the most thorough onboarding, there will be bumps along the way, right?
Well, for sure. It's inevitable in any complex project.
So how do you handle those inevitable challenges?
The key is to address them proactively and collaboratively. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to speak up, raise concerns, and work together to find a solution. That's where that foundation of trust and rapport we talked about earlier comes into play. When there's mutual respect and open communication, challenges become opportunities for collaboration and problem solving, rather than sources of conflict and frustration.
So it's all about having those open lines of communication.
Absolutely. Communication is key to any successful partnership.
So we've covered the essential steps for onboarding and building a strong working relationship. But what does success actually look like in this context? And what are the key indicators that this collaboration is actually working?
Well, success with a dedicated team is multifaceted. It's about delivering a high-quality product that meets your business goals, of course. But it's also about fostering a positive and productive working relationship where everyone feels valued, respected, and motivated to do their best work.
So it's not just about the end product, it's about the journey as well.
Exactly. You want to enjoy the process and feel like you're working with a team that's truly an extension of your own company. A team that's not just executing tasks, but contributing their expertise and ideas to the overall success of the project.
And when you find that perfect match, it can really transform your business.
Absolutely. It can take you to the next level.
It sounds like finding the right dedicated team is almost like finding a business partner, not just a vendor.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. It's about building a relationship built on trust, mutual respect, and that shared commitment to achieving a common goal.
So we've talked about, identifying your needs and considering all those factors beyond just technical skills.
Right.
But let's get down to brass tacks here. What are some specific questions you should actually ask potential teams when you're vetting them? What are those red flags that should make you pump the brakes and really think twice?
Well, you want to really dig into their experience. Ask about projects they've worked on that are similar to yours. What were some of the challenges they faced? How did they overcome them? What were the end results?
So you're looking for concrete examples, not just vague claims.
Exactly. You want to see proof that they can actually deliver.
And what about their process? How do they actually manage projects?
Ask about their project management methodologies, things like Agile, Scrum, Kanban, Waterfall. Make sure their approach aligns with your own preferences and how your company works.
Right, so you're not just throwing them into the deep end without knowing how they swim.
Exactly. You want to make sure you're on the same page from day one.
What about communication? How do they keep you in the loop throughout the project?
Ask about their communication protocols. How often will they provide updates? What channels do they use? Will there be regular meetings or calls? You want to make sure they're proactive and transparent in their communication.
So, no surprises down the line.
Exactly. Clear communication is essential for a successful partnership.
Okay, so you've asked all the right questions. You've got a good feel for the team's experience, their approach. But what are some of those red flags, those warning signs that maybe this isn't the right fit after all?
One major red flag is a lack of transparency. If they're hesitant to share details about their process or their past projects or even their team members, that's a sign that something might be off.
So trust is a big deal.
Trust is absolutely crucial in any partnership, especially when you're entrusting them with a vital part of your business.
What else? What other red flags should we watch out for?
Another red flag is a lack of flexibility. If they're rigid in their approach and not willing to adapt to your specific needs, that could be a problem.
So you need a team that's willing to work with you, not against you.
Exactly. You're looking for a partner, not a dictator.
Right. And what about cultural fit? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, cultural fit is super important.
Yeah.
You want a team that shares your values, your communication style, your work ethic. If you get a sense that their culture clashes with your own, that could lead to some serious headaches down the line.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Exactly. It's just not going to work.
So let's say you found a team that checks all the boxes. They've got the experience, the expertise, the right approach, the cultural fit. But how do you actually make sure the collaboration runs smoothly? The source material talked a lot about onboarding and building a strong working relationship, which seems super important for long-term success.
Oh, it's absolutely essential. It's like laying the foundation for a house. You could have the best blueprints and the most skilled builders in the world, but if the foundation is weak, the whole thing is going to crumble.
So you can't just assume that everything will magically fall into place.
Definitely not. Onboarding is all about setting clear expectations, establishing effective communication channels, and creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable collaborating and sharing their ideas.
The source also emphasized that onboarding isn't just a one-time event. It's an ongoing process.
Right. It's not just a check-the-box exercise. It's about continually refining the process, addressing any roadblocks, and making sure everyone stays on the same page as the project evolves. It's like a constant dialogue, a feedback loop that keeps the team aligned and engaged and working towards that shared goal.
So let's dive into the nitty-gritty here. What are the essential steps for a really smooth onboarding process? What should you focus on to make sure everyone hits the ground running?
Well, first impressions are super important, right?
Absolutely.
So start with introductions and not just the formal kind. Encourage both sides to really get to know each other, not just on a professional level, but personally too. Building that rapport and trust from the start creates a strong foundation for open communication and collaboration.
It's like meeting a new friend. You want to find that common ground share, a laugh, Establish a connection that goes beyond just the work itself.
Exactly. And once you've built that initial connection, then you can really dive into the specifics of the project. Clearly define those goals, the scope of work, the timeline, the key performance indicators. Make sure everyone understands the big picture and how their individual role contributes to the overall success.
The source material also talked about how important it is to discuss roles and responsibilities up front. Who's the point person for each area? How will decisions be made? What happens if there are disagreements?
Yeah, transparency is key here. Having a clear chain of command and a well-defined decision-making process just minimizes confusion, streamlines communication, and really empowers those team members to take ownership of their tasks.
So there's no second guessing or finger pointing.
Exactly. It's all about clarity and accountability.
And of course, communication is essential. The source really stressed the importance of setting those clear communication protocols right from the get-go.
Absolutely. Figure out those preferred channels, whether it's email, Slack, project management platforms, whatever works best for everyone. And set those expectations for response times and meeting frequency. And don't forget about cultural nuances if you're working with a remote team. Be mindful of time zones, language barriers, and those different communication styles.
It's about making sure everyone feels heard and understood and respecting everyone's time.
Precisely.
Now, once the project is actually in motion, those regular check-ins are super important, right?
They're crucial. And not just for monitoring progress, but for identifying and addressing any challenges early on, before they turn into major roadblocks.
Right, nip those problems in the bud.
Exactly.
The source material also suggested implementing a system for feedback and continuous improvement. What does that look like in the real world?
It's about creating this culture where feedback is welcomed and encouraged, both from the client side and within the dedicated team itself. Having those regular retrospectives where the team reflects on what went well, what could be improved, and how to adjust processes for future sprints can be super valuable.
So it's not about playing the blame game, it's about learning and growing together.
Exactly. It's about viewing those challenges as opportunities for growth and constantly striving to improve the process, which ultimately benefits everyone.
Now, I imagine even with the most thorough onboarding process, there are going to be bumps in the road, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's inevitable in any complex project.
So how do you handle those inevitable challenges, when things don't go exactly according to plan?
The key is to address those issues proactively and collaboratively. If something's not working, don't be afraid to speak up. Raise those concerns and work together to find a solution. That's where that strong foundation of trust and rapport that we talked about earlier really comes into play. When you have that mutual respect and open communication, those challenges become opportunities to collaborate and solve problems together rather than turning into conflict and frustration.
So it all comes back to communication.
Absolutely. Open and honest communication is the foundation of any successful partnership.
So we've covered the essential steps for onboarding and building that strong working relationship. But what does success actually look like in this context? What are the key indicators that the collaboration is truly working?
Well, success with a dedicated team has many facets. Of course, it's about delivering a high-quality product that meets your business goals. But it's also about cultivating a positive and productive working relationship where everyone feels valued, respected, and motivated to do their best work.
So it's not just about the destination, it's about the journey as well.
Exactly. You want to enjoy the process and feel like you're working with a team that's truly an extension of your own company. A team that's not just checking off tasks, but contributing their expertise and their ideas to the overall success of the project.
And when you find that perfect match, it can really be a game changer for your business.
It can unlock a whole new level of potential.
Well, this deep dive has been amazing. We've covered so much ground today, from understanding how dedicated teams work to choosing the right partner to setting everyone up for success.
It's been a pleasure sharing these insights.
As our listeners embark on their own software development journeys, keep this in mind. Choosing a dedicated team isn't just outsourcing work. It's about forming a strategic partnership that can really drive innovation and growth for your business.
It's about finding the right people to help you achieve your vision.
Now, the question to ponder as you move forward is this: how can you leverage the power of dedicated teams to unlock your own potential and achieve those ambitious goals you've set for yourself? That's something to think about. And who knows, maybe it'll lead to your next deep dive with us.